The realm. Do you know what the realm is? It's the 1,000 blades of Aegon's enemies. A story we agreed to tell each other over and over till we forget that it's a lie.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back for another Game of Thrones and A Song of Ice and Fire update video. Alright my friends, in this new video, let's revisit a subject I discussed in one of my older videos. When everyone from House of the Dragon recently sat down with Entertainment Weekly, they revealed some new information that I think most of you will find interesting. I know I certainly did, because what I found out is so much worse than we all initially thought. Now, as you all know, when Game of Thrones was entering its final season a little over 3 years ago, HBO decided they did not want to leave Westeros forever. It's no secret that Game of Thrones is still the most successful show in television history. Not only because of how many fans they had, but also because of the amount of money this series was able to make HBO. There are some estimations that say Game of Thrones made them billions of dollars, so you can certainly understand why HBO would want to make sure a Game of Thrones series stayed on our televisions. Before the main series Game of Thrones even ended, they started writing several new shows. According to a recent article, HBO did some research on George R. R. Martin's A Song of Ice and Fire saga. Afterwards, they said they had about 15 different ideas for shows, but only 5 of those actually moved forward to get turned into actual scripts. Now, before House of the Dragon was given the green light, there was another show that HBO was focusing on the most. This was a series about the Long Night, when the White Walkers originally invaded Westeros roughly 8,000 years ago.
One of the HBO shows in development. Can you tell us about any of those, by the way? Blood Moon has wrapped something, hasn't it?
I can't.
Go on.
There's probably an HBO agent in the in the auditorium even now. I can say, as I have said before, we started out with a number of different ideas, all of them prequels. One show, which I've been calling The Long Night, but HBO keeps saying it's not titled yet. So the show that's not called The Long Night yet has just finished filming up in Belfast and is now, and other places, not just Belfast, Italy as well. And Jane Goldman is the writer and the showrunner on that. You've probably been familiar with her work. She was the scriptwriter on several of the X-Men movies. She did Kick-Ass, and she did the Kingsman, both Kingsman things. She scripted Neil Gaiman's Stardust, so she's a very experienced screenwriter, and she's done this story, and it is set, 5,000 years in the past of Westeros, so way before the events of Game of Thrones. And that's the one that is furthest along at the moment, and it's in pre-production, and right now it's just a pilot, but it's got Naomi Watts in it, starring. It's got Miranda Richardson, a lot of other very exciting actors, and we'll probably be finding out in the next couple months whether HBO is actually going to order the full series of that.
That is very
And
exciting.
meanwhile, we have 2 other pilots that are also in active development at some stage, and hopefully in the near future, one or both of them will be greenlit.
Now, if I'm being honest, as anxious as I am to see House of the Dragon, I was actually even more excited for this show about the Long Night. This show wasn't only going to focus on the White Walkers, obviously, it was also going to have a very large focus on the Starks of legend. I was hoping we would learn more about all the fascinating secrets and mysteries of the North. I still want to know if the Night King was an ancient member from the Stark's house. I also want to know more about Winterfell and the Wall and how they were constructed. I wanted to learn more about the 13th Lord Commander of the Night's Watch, and even the Children of the Forest who were living out beyond the Wall. There are so many interesting things this show about the Long Night could have developed. Unfortunately, as I'm sure most of you already know, this show never got off the ground. They did, however, film 1 episode of the series. A very, very expensive episode, I might add. Ever since House of the Dragon sat down with Entertainment Weekly to discuss the release of their new show, they revealed a lot more information about the show that was ultimately shut down. The 1 episode they filmed for Blood Moon, the series about the Long Night, they more or less said it was so bad, they won't even let George R. R. Martin see it. It's obviously so much worse than the infamous original pilot episode for Game of Thrones. Now, if any of you remember that story, Game of Thrones was nearly shut down itself before it ever got off the ground. After Dan and Dave had Game of Thrones' first episode filmed for roughly $10 million, they let some of their friends watch it so they could let them know how well they had done. Well, it was so awful they basically had to start all over. Now, thankfully they did get it right after that, because Game of Thrones went on to become one of the most successful shows ever. Well, the series about the Long Night never stood a chance. Not only was this single episode 3 times the amount of money, but it was so disastrous they don't even want the author watching it. The headline reads, "The Show That Never Was." The recent article states, 1 year before Game of Thrones was set to air its series finale, HBO announced a pilot order for a new successor series, a show with the working name of Blood Moon. It would be set thousands of years before the events in Game of Thrones, during the fabled Age of Heroes and the wintry apocalypse known as the Long Night. Its showrunner, Jane Goldman, had considerable access making acclaimed R-rated genre hits with credits like Kick-Ass and The Kingsman. According to Orsi, who is one of the heads for drama at HBO, said Blood Moon won the bake-off on merit. Blood Moon really stood out as different, with unique world-building, Orsi says. It felt very adult, sophisticated, and intelligent, and there was a thematic conversation at the center of it about disenfranchisement in the face of colonialism and religious extremism. There was, however, only one major issue. George R. R. Martin had only written about 8 sentences about this time period for the show, leaving Goldman little to build from. Blood Moon was a very difficult assignment, George R. R. Martin said. There were no dragons yet, and a lot of the episode we shot revolved around a wedding of a southern house to a northern house, and it got into the whole history of the White Walkers. George R. R. Martin made his worries obvious to HBO, and one insider admits, having a show that's nearly all invention, that also had George scratching his head at various moments, was troubling at times. They did assemble a cast headed by Naomi Watts. There were massive new sets built, and then, Blood Moon's very first episode was shot for a whopping $30 to $35 million. And the result was locked away in a dungeon so deep that even George R. R. Martin has never been allowed to see it. There wasn't anything glaringly wrong with it. It wasn't unwatchable or horrible or anything like that. It was very well made, and it even looked extraordinary. Now, you see, I just don't believe them when they say something like this. If it isn't unwatchable, then why isn't George R. R. Martin, who is the author, who is the damn creator, not allowed to see it? Something must have gone very wrong. After wasting roughly $35 million, I now understand why they were so anxious to get House of the Dragon moving forward. Thankfully, that did not stop them from making another show, because it looks like they invested even more money into House of the Dragon. Everything does look amazing based on what I've seen so far from all the different official videos and photos. I would like to think that one day, they will learn from their mistakes. I guess all of us are about to find out soon enough when House of the Dragon releases in about 18 days from now.